Welcome to the Rulebook Tavern Chronicles, where we are talking about role-playing games. Today, we will be diving deep into the witch class in Pathfinder 2e.
Oh, okay.
You know, for those who want their magic to be a little more spooky and a lot less stand at the back and fling fireballs.
Witches are definitely more about subtle power and strange magic.
Yeah.
Instead of raw magical force, they make pacts with mysterious patrons.
Right.
Entities that grant them unique abilities.
I'm already hooked. Okay, so for those who haven't encountered a witch in their games yet, what's the quick rundown?
Imagine a spellcaster whose powers are tied to a specific, often otherworldly being.
Okay.
This patron could be anything from a powerful fey creature to a force of nature or even something darker.
Right.
It's this connection that shapes their spell list.
Yeah.
Grants them strange abilities called hexes, and of course provides them with a loyal familiar.
Hexes, familiars, this is all sounding very flavorful. But is it effective in a game? What are the pros and cons a player should consider?
Well, the witch's strength lies in their versatility. Okay.
Depending on their patron and spell choices, they can take on a variety of roles. Healer, damage dealer, or support.
Right.
And their familiar isn't just a pet, it's a tactical asset that can scout, deliver spells, or even fight alongside them.
Oh, wow.
The downside is that they're not as straightforwardly powerful as, say, a wizard.
Okay.
Their magic is more about strategic spell use, weakening foes with hexes, and leveraging their familiar effectively.
So cunning over brute force.
Yes.
Which I personally find very appealing. Now, I'm always fascinated by how ancestry choices can really make a class sing.
Yeah.
What ancestries synergize well with the witch, particularly for players who lean towards a core blaster or support playstyle.
It's true that ancestry can drastically change how you play a witch.
Right.
For those who want to focus on dealing damage, the uncommon dragon blood heritage is fantastic.
Okay.
It allows you to tap into a Draken lineage, granting you access to breath weapons and draconic resilience.
You could even take the breath of the dragon feat to unleash a fiery blast, making you a real threat from the get-go.
A witch who can breathe fire.
Exactly.
That's some serious fantasy fuel. What about for our support-minded players? Any ancestries that stand out for them?
The Nephilim lineage is a great option for witches who want to focus on support.
Okay.
Born from interactions with outsiders, they have innate magical abilities that can be used to bolster allies or hinder enemies.
Oh, cool.
Their connection to the otherworldly also adds an intriguing layer to their patron relationship, offering a lot of potential for storytelling.
Ooh, I can see the role-playing possibilities already.
Yeah.
Now that we've got ancestry sorted, let's talk about backgrounds.
Okay.
Are there any that particularly enhance the witch's playstyle or provide some flavorful options?
Backgrounds are more than just backstory. They
Right.
provide crucial skills and starting feats. For a witch who walks a darker path, the criminal background offers deception and stealth skills perfect for those who want to operate in the shadows.
A witch with a criminal past.
Yeah.
I can see that working really well, especially if their patron has a shady influence.
Right.
Anything a bit less well criminal.
The witch background itself, though seemingly ironic, is surprisingly potent.
Interesting.
It grants access to crafting and witches' tools, which, depending on your game, could offer unique role-playing and mechanical opportunities.
Oh, very cool.
You could craft potent magical trinkets or use your tools in interesting ways, maybe as a focus for your spells.
I'm all for leaning into the irony. So we've got a budding witch. Their ancestry is picked. Their shady background is set.
Okay.
Now let's talk spells.
All right.
What makes witch spellcasting unique?
Unlike classes, like wizards, witches use a spell repertoire.
Okay.
It's like a curated collection of spells they learn as they level up, choosing from both general lists and their patrons' unique offerings.
Okay.
This means they can't prepare any spell they find,
Right.
but it allows for more focused and thematic spell casting.
So it's more about mastering a specific style of magic rather than having access to everything.
Yeah.
Got it.
And the patron's unique spells are where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
These spells are often flavored by the patron's nature, making them quite powerful and flavorful.
I like it.
For example, a witch with a fey patron might gain access to spells that twist perceptions or charm their foes.
So how does this repertoire system work mechanically? How many spells can a witch prepare, and can they change them frequently?
It's a bit more flexible than some other spellcasting systems.
What?
You have a number of spells you can prepare based on your level, and you can swap them out each day during your daily preparations. So it's a good balance between having a focused set of tools, but still being able to adapt to different situations.
That makes sense. So you're not stuck with the same spells day after day,
Yeah.
but you also can't just prepare anything on the fly.
Right.
Now, you mentioned some intriguing patron-specific spells earlier.
Yes.
What are some other examples that really make the witch stand out?
Well, for those tactical players out there, there are feats like Reach Spell and Widen Spell that can be taken. They allow you to modify the range and area of your spells, giving you greater control on the battlefield. Reach Spell lets you extend the range of your spells, making it harder for enemies to escape your grasp, while Widen Spell expands the area of effect, catching multiple foes in your magical web.
I can see that being a game changer, especially when facing a horde of enemies. But let's get to the spell that really screams witch. Something unique, something flavorful. What's a spell that would make players say, yeah, that's a witch spell?
How about Mislead? It's a 6th-level illusion spell where you essentially become invisible while creating an illusory duplicate of yourself.
Oh, wow.
You can even control the duplicate's actions, creating a distraction while you position yourself for a more potent attack. Talk about spooky and effective.
That's brilliant. I love the blend of illusion and tactical maneuvering. What about something a bit less subtle, something for those who like their magic with a side of ick?
Fungal Infestation, a 2nd-level primal spell, is sure to delight those who like things gross and effective.
Okay.
It's a cone of toxic spores that deal persistent poison damage and can hinder movement, making it hard for enemies to escape.
Okay, now, we can't forget about the familiar. The witch's iconic companion. It's not just a pet. It plays a big part in their magical power, right?
Absolutely. The familiar isn't just a cute sidekick, it's a key part of the witch's arsenal. They can learn spells, gain unique abilities based on their type, and even act as a conduit for the witch's spells with the familiar conduit feat.
I'm really intrigued by this familiar conduit. It sounds like it could dramatically change how you play a witch, especially in combat.
It does.
Yeah.
Imagine your familiar flitting across the battlefield, delivering a touch spell to a vulnerable enemy while you remain at a safe distance. It adds a whole new dimension to the witch's tactical options.
So we've got our ancestry, our background. We've dipped into the spell repertoire, and we've got a sense of how the familiar works. What advice would you give to someone who's ready to step into the pointy shoes of a witch at the table? How do you really bring this class to life?
I'd say the key is to really lean into the flavor of your patron. Your patron isn't just a source of power, it's a reflection of your witch's story, their personality, their connection to the mystical world. Think about what kind of entity your witch has made a pact with, and let that influence your choices, your actions, even your spell selections.
So if my witch is a fae patron, I might lean into the trickery, the illusions, the unpredictable nature of the fae.
Exactly. You might choose spells that charm or confuse your enemies, use your familiar to create diversions, and roleplay your witch with a touch of mischief and whimsy.
And what about a witch with a more somber patron, like an undead entity? How might their gameplay and personality differ?
A witch with an undead patron might focus on spells that drain life force, manipulate shadows, or summon undead minions. Their personality might be more brooding and introspective, reflecting the influence of their patron.
I can see that. The patron really seems to be the heart of the witch class, influencing everything from their mechanics to their role-playing.
It's what makes the witch so unique and versatile. You're not just choosing a class, you're choosing a story, a connection to a powerful entity that will shape your destiny.
Okay, now let's circle back to those hexes. We've talked about them briefly, but I think it's time to dive deeper into what makes them so special. They're not just another set of spells, right?
Right. Hexes are like mini curses that you can inflict on your enemies or even use to enhance your own abilities. You don't have to spend spell slots to use them, and they can last for a surprisingly long time, making them an incredibly valuable tool.
So how do they work in a game? Do you have to make an attack roll or something?
Yeah. Some hexes require a ranged spell attack, while others take effect automatically. For example, the Evil Eye Hex lets you curse a creature that attacks you, imposing a penalty on their attack rolls. It's a great way to punish those who dare to strike at you.
So hexes can be both offensive and defensive, and they offer a lot of tactical flexibility.
Exactly. They allow you to debilitate your foes, disrupt their actions, and even gain an advantage in social situations.
Now, I'm really curious about the different types of hexes that a witch can choose from. Are they all about cursing and misfortune, or is there more variety than that?
There's a surprising amount of variety. Some hexes are straightforwardly harmful, like the Misfortune Hex, which causes a creature to roll twice and take the worst result on their d20 rolls. Others are more subtle, like the Cackle Hex, which lets you frighten enemies with your creepy laughter when you cast a spell.
Oh, I love that it's so perfectly witchy.
It is, and there are hexes that can enhance your own abilities, like the Fortune Hex, which allows you to grant yourself or an ally a bonus to any d20 roll.
Wow, so you can really customize your hexes to fit your playstyle, whether you're going for a more combat-focused approach or a more cunning and manipulative style.
Exactly. And don't forget, hexes don't require spell slots, so you can use them freely without worrying about depleting your magical reserves.
That makes them an incredibly valuable resource, especially in a long adventuring day.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked a lot about the mechanics of playing a witch, but I want to touch on something that's equally important, the role-playing aspect. How can players really bring their witch characters to life, making them feel like more than just a collection of stats and abilities?
Role-playing a witch is all about embracing the mystery, the otherworldliness, and the unique connection you have with your patron. Don't be afraid to play up the quirks of your patron's
So
influence.
if I have a Fey patron, I might sprinkle in some riddles, use flowery language, or even have my witch break out into a spontaneous dance every now and then.
Exactly. Embrace those little details, those unexpected moments that really make your witch stand out from the crowd.
And what about the witch's familiar? We've talked about their tactical uses, but how can we make them feel like true characters, not just magical extensions of the witch?
Give your familiar a personality. Think about their mannerisms, their likes and dislikes, their quirks. Do they mimic your witch's actions? Are they constantly getting into mischief? Do they have a favorite spot to perch on your shoulder?
So it's about treating the familiar as a character in its own right, not just a piece of equipment.
Exactly. And remember, your familiar can communicate with you telepathically, so don't be afraid to let their thoughts and opinions influence your actions.
I love that. It creates a dynamic and engaging partnership between the witch and their familiar. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive into the world of witches, I want to touch on something you mentioned earlier, the challenges and rewards of playing this class. What are some of the unique obstacles and triumphs that a witch might face in their adventures?
Playing a witch is not without its risks. Your connection to a powerful patron comes with certain expectations, and there's always the possibility that your patron's goals may not align with your own.
So there's a delicate balance to maintain between serving your patron and following your own path.
Exactly, and the choices you make can have consequences both good and bad.
It sounds like playing a witch requires a certain level of cunning, both in dealing with the world around you and in navigating the complexities of your relationship with your patron.
It does, but the rewards are well worth the risks. The Witch is a class that allows for incredible creativity, both mechanically and in terms of role-playing. You're not just a spellcaster. You're a conduit for otherworldly power, a master of hexes and curses, and a companion to a creature from beyond the mundane.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here today. We've explored the mechanics of the witch,
Yeah.
their unique connection to patrons, the versatility of their spell repertoire, the tactical advantages of hexes and familiars, and the importance of role-playing to bring these characters to life. But before we wrap up, I have one final question for you. If a witch's power comes from a patron, what does that patron get in return? Is it simply a transaction, an exchange of power for services, or is there something more to it, a deeper connection that binds the witch and their patron together?
That's a question that really delves into the heart of the Witch's Pact.
Yeah.
It's something that can vary so much, depending on the patron and the nature of their agreement.
So it's not always like a, like a you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of deal.
Not necessarily.
Like-
Some patrons might demand tribute or specific tasks or even a portion of the witch's life force.
Oh, wow.
Others might be more subtle in their demands,
Not bad.
influencing the witch's actions in subtle ways or kind of nudging them towards certain goals.
So that adds a whole other layer of complexity to playing a witch.
Yeah.
It's not just about mastering your spells and hexes. It's about navigating this, intricate relationship with a powerful entity.
Exactly. And that's part of what makes the witch such a compelling class. You're constantly walking this tightrope between your own desires and the expectations of your patron.
It's like a constant tug of war between your free will and the influence of this otherworldly being.
Precisely. And how you choose to handle that tension can really shape your witch's entire story.
Right.
Will you succumb to your patron's demands, becoming a puppet for their schemes? Or will you fight for your own autonomy, forging your own path, even if it means defying a powerful entity?
That's a really interesting dilemma. It makes me think about those classic stories of witches making deals with devils or demons. There's always a price to pay, a consequence for seeking power from such dangerous sources.
And those consequences can be both personal and far-reaching.
Yeah.
A witch who makes a pact with a destructive entity might find themselves unleashing chaos upon the world, even if it wasn't their intention.
So it's not just about power, it's about responsibility, about understanding the implications of your choices and the potential impact they can have on others.
Exactly. Playing a witch is about more than just mechanics and spells. It's about making these meaningful choices, facing moral dilemmas, and exploring the consequences of wielding power that is not entirely your own.
Well, I think that's a fantastic note to end on. We've covered so much ground today, from the intricacies of spellcasting to the complexities of patron relationships. But I have a feeling there's still so much more to explore, so many more stories to tell, so many more paths to forge in the world of the witch.
There's always more to discover, more to learn, more to experience. The witch's path is one of endless possibilities limited only by your imagination.
Well said. And to all our listeners out there, if you've ever been intrigued by the witch class, I encourage you to give it a try. Embrace the mystery, forge your pact, and unleash your magic upon the world.
And remember, your familiar is your constant companion on this journey.
Yeah.
Treat them well, listen to their counsel, and together you can achieve great things.
Hope you enjoyed this deep dive with us, and see you soon.